All right. So yesterday we finished the list, the minyan and mitzvos in the Mishnah Torah, and I wanted to do this side thing of the blurb. I don't know what to call it. The heading here calls it סיום Mitzvos Aseh. This is a little blurb that he has after the Mitzvos Aseh in the Mishnah in the Sefer Mitzvos. And I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess we'll read it and then try to define like what he's doing. I don't know, because he doesn't. I don't think he does anything like this in the Mishnah Torah. Excuse me, in the Mishnah Torah. So he says, "V'da kimash amarno shenisbaru mishpatam b'makom ploni." So that which we have said that the laws, that their laws, meaning the laws of the mitzvahs, are clarified in such and such a place. In kavanasena b'zeh shezeh perak o hamaseches hahi tichlo kol mishpatei hamitzvah hahi ad shelo timali mehem she'ela. We don't mean that our intent was not to say that that parak or that masechta includes all the laws of that mitzvah to the point where there's no question omitted. About askir makom asher bo ikar din hamitzvah hahi v'rov mishpateha. Rather, I will mention the place where the essential din of that mitzvah is and the majority of its laws. V'ulam yihiu she'elos rabos lemishpatei hamitzvah hahi mifuzaros b'makomos rabim mehatalmud. You're going to find certain laws that are scattered throughout the Talmud. As kor makomam ata. I'm not going to mention their place now. See, I don't know why he's saying this now, because he should have said this at the very beginning before he listed any of the mitzvahs.
Yeah. Also, what statements is he referring to?
So I think what he means is, let's say you look up any mitzvah in the Mishnah Torah, sorry, in the Sefer Mitzvos. Hold on. Is this not taking me back because it's not recognizing?
Oh, sorry, this is Sefer Mitzvos. Okay.
Yeah, Sefer Mitzvos. Yeah.
I thought that was.
Oh, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's saying whenever he said a location in the Sefer Mitzvos so far.
Right. Like, for example, just to give an example here, right? So he says, what is this mitzvah I just clicked on? Tzitzis, right? So he says, Kvar hisbar mishpatei mitzvah b'perek dal mimanachos. So that's where you'll find the laws, but he doesn't mean that all the laws are there, just most of them. And he's not going to mention the other places.
I see.
Yeah. Okay. So then he says, ukshetis takel. So that's why I'm asking, why didn't he say this at the outset? Like he listed 248 mitzvahs and then said, oh, by the way, the places I listed are not all of the laws. I don't know. To me, it makes sense to put it before, but whatever. Ukshetis takel kol elu hamitzvos shekadim zacharam. When you look at all of these mitzvahs that we mentioned previously, shekadim zichram ata, shetimsa mehem mitzvos shehem ata. All right, again, I'm very picky when it comes to translations here. This is not the translation I'm used to. Let me go to my other translation and see if that's any better. Because when I say any better, I mean this is the one. Again, there must be several editions of the Sefer Mitzvos of the Rambam, because this is allegedly translated by Kafach, but is not the same as the print version. But I will see if it's better. Now, here's the annoying thing here. They don't have a table of contents, so you have to click Hemshech HaMitzvos, Hemshech HaMitzvos, Hemshech HaMitzvos until you get to the very end. It's a little time consuming here. At least there are only 248 mitzvahs to say. Am I right? Okay. All right.
In the URL, you see where it says 6?
Yeah, I know. I've clicked there before. I've modified that, but it doesn't. I don't know if it's going to take me. Oh, it does here. Okay, fine. No, because I wasn't sure if this was on a separate page or not. Meaning, but he put it at the end of the list. Okay, so let's see if this is any better. Im tisbonen, im tisbonen bichlal mitzvos ha'ila. If you contemplate these mitzvos, shekadim zacharim, that we mentioned before, tim samehen, you will find of them. Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? Sorry. This is okay. Sorry. I don't even need to do this because I actually have a PowerPoint with this. I just didn't realize the PowerPoint started this early. Okay. This is from a side thing that I did with my Gemara students last year. So when you look at all these mitzvahs, this is my preferred translation. When you look at all these mitzvahs, shekadim zacharim, that was mentioned previously. Oh, you don't see it because I'm not sharing it.
Yeah.
Yes, that would make sense. Okay, better?
Yeah.
All right, so when you look at all these mitzvahs that were previously mentioned, hine timsa mehem mitzvos shehem chova al tzibor. So you'll find certain mitzvos that were an obligation on the congregation, lo l'chol ish ve'ish, not on every person. Kagon binyan beis habechira v'hakamas melach v'hakras zera shel malek. So all of those are not mitzvos on individuals. You are not chayav to annihilate a malek. It's a mitzvah on the nation. okay, or on the tzipor. And that's why I don't know, I'm not familiar with all the shitos of Amalek, but I know that there are people who think that like if you could identify an Amalekite on the street, then you just go up and kill them. But the Rambam seems to hold that it's a mitzvah of milchama, and milchama is a mitzvah on the nation as a whole, not on individual. So and then certainly building the base of Mikdash and appointing a king. Umehem mitzvos shehem chova ish miuchad. Some mitzvos are an obligation for a particular person. Im asa ha'pu'ula ha'plonis, if he did a specific action, o sheyim tza'ehu ha'inyan ha'ploni, or if a special condition befalls him, kamo korban shogeg or korban mezid. So like a korban shogeg or mezid, right? So it's not like you have to go out and do a shogeg so that you're mechayev yourself in a korban shogeg. It's that if you did something b'shogeg, then you have to bring a korban. Sometimes a person will go his entire life, and he will never do that action, and he will never be in that situation. So those mitzvahs you're not guaranteed to do. Okay, oh, I apologize again. I forgot that since this was for a Gemara class, I paraphrase here. Okay, so we're gonna flip back and forth between. I'm gonna switch to screen view. We're gonna flip back and forth between my PowerPoint and between this translation here. Yeah. Okay. So he says, where are we now? Even though these are two different translations, I think. Yeah. Yesh mitzvos elu gam dinim. So there are some mitzvos which are dinim. Kamo shebiarnu, as we explained. Kagon din evet ivri, v'din ama ivriya, v'din evet kanani, v'din shomer chinam, v'din shoel v'zulas, amimasha kadim zoharam. So those were like the sets of laws where he didn't tell you to do a specific action, but rather you should follow all the dinim. So see, so that's interesting. He says it's possible that you go your whole life without applying this din. So doesn't that seem like he means that it's a mitzvah for the dayanim? Isn't that lashon v'lo yadun b'din zeh? Sounds like it, right? Meaning, in other words, like what I thought he meant was, din evet ivri, for example, is all the halachos involving an evet ivri. But maybe he means that it is in a situation where you have to be done, whether someone is an evet ivri or what the rights of an evet ivri are, and that's what he means. But anyway, so that's what he says. You might go your whole life without being done in those things. You're not chayav in this mitzvah. Umehen gam mitzvos she'enan chova ela bifnei habayis. Some of the mitzvos are only an obligation when the base of Mikdash is extant. Kagon hachagiga v'hariyah umitzvos hakel ukvar hiskarno achas. So some of them are only mitzvos of the base of Mikdash, and we've explained those. Umehen gam mitzvos she'enan chova ela l'mishiyesh lo ruchush. Some mitzvos only apply to a person who has property. Kagon maisros utrumos umatnos kahuna umatnos aniyim. Like all those different types of tithes and gifts. You might not be a vineyard owner. You might not have a field, and you might not be obligated in them. And you'll go your entire life without being obligated in these mitzvos. But tzedakah is not in these. Because everyone's chayav in tzedakah, even if you're an ani. Okay, fine. So that's the one exception out of the Matnas Zanim. Isaac, you see how this is relevant to the list you made? Yeah. Okay, now this is the part where we switch back to the PowerPoint. Okay, you can see the PowerPoint, right? Okay. Oh yeah. So back. I went too far. Okay. So umehen. Did I skip one? He didn't. Did I skip something about nachalos? Must be a different translation that nachalos means property. I'm going to assume that that's the case. Some mitzvos are obligatory for each person of necessity. Okay, no matter what condition or place you're in. Kagon, tzitzis, utfilin, ushmir Shabbos. Okay, everyone's obligated in those. V'nikra mitzvos shehem mizeh hamin mitzvos hechrachios. So I'm still in a bit of debate with myself how to translate that. How do you translate mitzvos hechrachios?
I'm not sure what the shoresh is.
Oh, so hechrach usually is translated as compulsory or by force. But I don't like to call it compulsory mitzvahs. That kind of implies that the other mitzvahs are not compulsory, but they are if you're in those situations.
Maybe
also
like
doesn't
certain mitzvahs.
What do you say, Isaac?
Maybe like certain mitzvahs, like that you're
Certain, as in like as opposed to uncertain.
like certain that you're going to do them.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I hear that. I feel like it doesn't quite have the bal korchach, implication here of like doing it you're forced to. What were you gonna say, Zev?
Well, I was gonna say that the word mitzvah also means obligatory. So
That's the other problem, right, in the translation. So what I'm calling them right now, I don't know if there's a better term, but if you ever find one, say again.
Necessitative.
Necessitative is interesting. I just don't think that's a word. No, is it a word? It might be a word, but it's not. It's not like a normal word, might be good. So I'm calling them normative mitzvos. Normative means that people are obligated to do them as a matter of course, right? Like that they are, because normative is a good word in between obligatory and normal. Like standardized obligations. That's a good word, normative. So I'm calling them normative mitzvos. Because they're obligatory upon every man who has come of age of necessity in every time, every place, and every situation. Okay. Now, if you hadn't looked at the list, I don't know if you've looked ahead at this. How many mitzvahs would you say there are in the Mitzvos Aseh, if you had to guess, that are in this category?
I'm gonna guess 30.
Isaac is in the best position to guess this because he just went through all the classifications. What did you say, Isaac?
I'm gonna guess 30.
Okay. Anyone else want to upper or lower? Over under? No. Okay. So he says, when you look at these 248 mitzvos Aseh, timsa hamitzvos ha'ichrachos mehem shishim mitzvos, 60. Okay.
Okay,
now he does add one thing, which I don't know. I should have said this earlier. Ubetanai sha'isha marnu shechayav be'elu hashishim mitzvos ha'ichrachos she inyano k'inyan shirov bnei adam bo. So we're talking about an average man. Okay. So he says, v'hu omid b'bayis b'medina. He has a house in a country. V'yochal hamacham. He eats foods. Hayuduim lamazon ha'adam, that are for nutrition. Rotelamar halechem v'basar. V'yaseh schora im bnei adam. V'yisa isha v'yolid banim. So he does business. He gets married. So he's acknowledging that not every person will do these. So if you are allergic to bread, you're not going to do this. Or if you don't own a house, or if you don't, whatever, like you don't have an arm, you're not going to put on tefillin, right? But these are the normal average man. Okay. So then the reason why I want to switch to the PowerPoint is the Rambam just lists them by number, and that's not going to help us much because we're going to have to like go through and like list all of them. So what I did was I made a list, which I'll show you the list in a little while. I'm just going to read to the end here. He says, so this is after the list. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to, we'll come back to that. Hold on. Okay. So, sorry. No. All right. I got to explain to you the context of this. Okay. The context of this whole PowerPoint was when I had a 10th grader who said like, I had an agenda here. Okay. So I had a 10th grader who said like, why is it that men are obligated in something, maybe she said like men get to do more mitzvahs than women. Okay. And that's obviously a common, I don't know how much exposure you've had to Reform Jews, but like a lot of Reform Jews, this is a big sticking point. Like there's in Orthodoxy, then there's various branches of concerns about, Judaism's treatment of women, et cetera, et cetera. But in Reform Judaism, it's just this very, or at least my experience in Reform Judaism, it's this very, very just basic, like, I don't want there to be like any I don't want you to tell me that I can't be involved in anything that a man can be involved in. It's like a very just old school egalitarian. So that was what I was responding to with the student. And so what I wanted to show the student is, it wasn't just the student. I made this into a class. Is that there are 60 mitzvos that comprise the like ordinary mitzvah life of a man. Okay, and it's those 60, and all the other ones are either special conditions, special circumstances like the Rambam described. But there's 60 that are like, this is your core religious life. Okay. So then he says, so there are 46 mitzvos that the women are also obligated in. Arba esrei mitzvos mehen she'ein hanashim chayavos ben, and then 14 that they're not obligated in. Okay. Via siman be'elu hashishim mitzvos ha'yichrechios shishim hema malchus. So the mnemonic is they are 60 for kingship. Via hasiman b'nefol ha'arba asar esrei mehen min hanashim azlas yad. So another Rambam likes the number 14. Now that's not a ride for that, but that they're yad azlas yad, power progresses or moves on. O yesamen b'chiyuv hashish v'arba me'os mitzvos l'nashim gam at b'dam b'risech. You two are in the blood of your covenant. Klomar shemispar badam hu chova alehem v'hem habris hamechuyav l'nashim behechreach. So this is something that maybe if we have time we can focus on later. But he says that there's a pasuk in Zechariah that says you two are in the blood of your covenant, and he says that the badam is 46. And these mitzvahs are the bris for women, okay, which I've never heard this before, okay, and it's hard to tell because he introduces this as a mnemonic, but then it sounds like he's making a definitive statement here that there's like a bris that is made with nashim that is in these 46 mitzvahs, and this is why I also bring this in when I'm teaching Bereshis and we do bris milah and I'm teaching girls, and they always say, well, why is there no equivalent of bris milah for girls, you know? And so there's several answers to that question, but one of them is, I don't know, but it sounds like the Rambam is saying that this is a bris for women, is these 46 mitzvahs. And the question is, what does that mean even, you know? So if we have time, maybe we'll get to that and speculate. Okay, but here are the 46 normative mitzvahs for women, and these are the ones for men. And then afterwards, I'll list the ones that are for men and not women, okay? So these are, and this is, again, this is the Rambam lists all these, but he lists them by number, okay? So here are the mitzvahs, and I'm not using the Rambam's formulation here. This was, I'm formulating them in ways that 10th graders will be able to understand. Okay, so to know that God exists, to know that God is one, to love him, to fear him, to pray to him, to cling to him, to swear in his name, to emulate his ways, to sanctify his name, to affix a mezuzah, to make a birkas hamazon, to honor Kohanim, to rejoice on festivals, to say vidui, to fulfill vows, to give portions of animals to Kohanim, shchita, kisui hadam, all of the simanim of the kosher animals, resting on Shabbos, kiddush on Shabbos, bir chametz on Leil Yod Aleph, Yod Daled, sibur yitzias Mitzrayim, eating matzah on Leil Pesach, shvisa on all the yamim tovim.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
Did he not list the kosher chogavim?
The kosher what? Chagavim? Yeah. I think it is interesting that he, we'll double check that. I'm pretty sure he didn't list it. But I think it's because, what do you call it? I think that's just not b'chol makom and b'chol zman. Could be. I don't know if that's the case, but maybe, I mean, like, maybe I'm assuming that back then it was also like, you know, not everyone was living in a climate where they had like edible locusts. I don't really know though.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Also, what is swearing in his name?
That's when you are chayav to make a chavurah. Then when you make a chavurah in God's name, then that is a mitzvos aseh.
Okay.
Resting on Shmini Atzeret is fine. Okay. Obeying a navi, following the Sanhedrin, making a ma'akeh, giving tzedakah, loaning to the poor, love your fellow Jew, love the ger, use accurate weights, honor chachamim, kibbud av v'em, mora av v'em, and have bia only with kedushin. Okay, so these are the 46 for women. Okay, that are normative, meaning that most women will do this in most times. And you can see that even with these, I mean, not all of them are really even, I wouldn't even call them normative anymore. Like shchita, people just don't do shchita anymore. You know, that's just not the reality. You know, you go to your shochet. Same thing with like using accurate weights. I mean, most of us don't make money in ways that need weights. So, I mean, this is part of the question here also. Like, Rambam is, as far as I know, Rambam is making up this category. You know, so when he made that drasha on gam at badam b'risech or at gam badam b'risech, whatever it is, like that, I don't think he's quoting a drasha from Chazal. I'm not aware of that. Like, sounds like his own drasha. You know. So a lot of interesting questions like, what is the Rambam doing here? Okay, so then, so I forgot I did this here. So I highlighted in yellow all of the ones that the girls in my class will like be involved in directly, you know, in most of the time. So that's excluding a lot of these things here, just because we're not going to be in those situations. Okay, so then by the way, this is a side point here when you're teaching, like this is one of the differences between teaching in yeshiva and teaching in high school, is that like in yeshiva, it's all like, or mostly like pure learning, sometimes in high school, I have to like whip up a lesson with an agenda, and so this is, that's why I keep on excusing myself that this was the agenda I had here. So all right, so now here are the 14 additional normative mitzvahs that men are obligated in and women are not obligated in. Okay, so saying Kriya Shema twice a day, learning and teaching Torah, wearing head tefillin, wearing arm tefillin, wearing tzitzis, writing a Sefer Torah, Birkas Kohanim, and that's not even all Jewish men, that's just Kohanim, counting the Omer, dwelling in a sukkah for 7 days, taking a lulav on the first day of Sukkot, hearing a shofar on Rosh Hashanah, pru uravu, Chassan has to make his wife happy for the first year, and then all males have to get bris milah. Okay, so those are the 14 that women are not chayav in. Okay, so then pushing forward with my agenda, I wanted to show that unlike the gut reaction of women being excluded from these, okay, let's look and see which one women's are actually excluded from. Okay, so saying Kriya Shema twice a day, women can do voluntarily. Okay, it's just that they're not obligated in it because it's a mitzvah Aseh man grama. But obviously, if they do it, then they get schar. And obviously, like philosophically, it's shaykh to them, right? Like I don't know anyone who would say women should not say Kriya Shema. Okay, learning and teaching Torah, same thing. Women can do it voluntarily, and women are obligated in Talmud Torah, just not via mitzvahs Talmud Torah. I mean, this is a whole other topic, but Rabbi Tzei gave a shir on women in Talmud obligated in Talmud Torah, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he mentioned that there are 3 types of Talmud Torah. There's Talmud Torah in the sense of, I think the pasuk is V'asisam osam ushmartem la'asosam. Basically, there's Talmud Torah of keeping halacha. Women have to learn Torah to know what halacha to keep. So that's 100%. Secondly, there's Talmud Torah as a means of Ahavas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. Okay, that women are obligated in because they're obligated in Ahavas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. The only Talmud Torah that they're not obligated in is Talmud Torah of Masorah, of maintaining the Masorah, and that's the rigid system of Talmud Torah in Hilchos Talmud Torah, and that they're not obligated in because it's tied to. I mean, you have to go through the drushos there of what is it? It's related of tefillin, and then and Talmud Torah and Mitzvos Aseh man grama are all like learned out from a chain, So whatever you view that mitzvah as. Okay, wearing head tefillin and arm tefillin, Rambam holds that women can do no different than any other mitzvah. Say that's a machlokas rishonim whether women can do tefillin or not, and I believe I think even that is a machlokas within a machlokas. What have you heard about women not wearing tefillin? Like why we say that women shouldn't wear tefillin?
Well, I heard from the modern Achronim or modern Putin that the reason they say women shouldn't wear tefillin is because since they're not mechuyev in it, then they shouldn't do it when men shouldn't really do it anyways.
Exactly, right. So unlike all the other voluntary mitzvahs where you're not putting yourself in jeopardy by doing it, tefillin, there's like a halachic risk there, which is that we really are mechuyev to wear tefillin all day, but because we can't be shomer our goof and our like machshavos, so then we only do it during shacharis because it's usher to be mesiach das from your tefillin or to not have a goof naki. So for a woman to do it, she's putting herself into a needless halachic state of halachic jeopardy. My loose analogy here is like in the same way that we don't encourage men to wear tefillin all day, we also don't encourage women to put on tefillin at all, and there may be certain cases where a man is on the level or in a position where he can wear tefillin all day without that risk. And maybe there's certain cases where a woman could do that also, but that's just not what we recommend, And then I've heard people make the argument, I don't know if this is only in the Achronim or if any Rishonim say it. Have you heard another argument why they say women shouldn't wear tefillin?
I've heard because of
something.
Nida.
What was that, Zev?
I've heard because of Nida. I don't know if that's a real thing.
Interesting. I have not heard that, but that might be true. I just don't know. Yeah,
I think it's not an issue.
Nida would not be an issue, you're saying?
I think it would be.
Oh, would be.
It's related to not.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I thought you meant. So, are you saying though that when she's actually like menstruating, not, or do you mean like being in the state of tumas nida?
Oh, both, I guess.
I actually don't know.
Maybe just men.
Yeah. I don't really know what the ramifications of nida are outside of like the Isser nida. Like I don't really know like it's a whole thing, like women holding a Sefer Torah, like is that totally fine or is that like a problem? Whatever. Yeah. So I had heard someone make the argument that it's considered a beged ish or a tachshit of an ish, and I'm like, common sense wise that makes sense. I just don't know if everyone holds by that halachically, and certainly the Rambam does not seem to hold it because he doesn't. I mean, to my knowledge, he doesn't. He holds that women can. Okay, wearing tzitzis, women can do voluntarily according to the Rambam. Okay, same thing there. You can argue that it's a beged ish. Not sure.
Is
Writing
that the
Sefer
only
Torah.
argument that people
Yeah.
make against women wearing it?
What was that?
Are there any
For
other
tzitzis?
arguments?
Well, there are meta halakhic arguments. Okay, like in the same way. I mean, the analogy is used where in the time of the I guess I don't know when this started, but let's say like 1900s, mid 1900s. I don't know, maybe it was before, maybe it was after also. Then the battleground between the conservative and the orthodox was mechitzas. So things that ordinarily would be kulas, or that we would say then there were poskim who were machmir on it, because that was where people were making like a hashkafic stance of like, rejecting certain tenets of orthodoxy. So I've seen the argument made that nowadays, like when they had the whole thing of women in certain girls in certain high schools putting on tefillin, I don't know if you followed that story. That was like 5 years ago or something. Then I heard certain poskim say the same argument there, that even if there are Rishonim who permit it, then if they're doing it for like egalitarian reasons, or to like imply that the Chachmei Talmud were like sexist, or to like, have any of these like agendas, then we're machmir to have them not do that. So there are meta halakhic reasons also, but I'm not aware of any halakhic reasons other than the ones that we mentioned.
That makes sense.
I'm a little confused actually. Women have the 400 women, are they not obligated to make?
So tzitzis are, I believe it's because tzitzis are mitzvos aseh man grama. According to
the, yeah,
right,
yeah,
so that yeah, it is weird though, right? Because so I believe it's mitzvos aseh man grama, because certainly according to the side that says you're only chayev bayom and not balayla, but then there's the other side of the machlokas that it's a beged yom and not a beged laila, and I don't remember what they hold about women and that, because that doesn't seem like zman grama. That's like specifying the beged. So I don't remember.
I think there might be a Tosfos who says that because it's a beged yom, it's a mitzvos aseh grama.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 3 years ago.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I don't remember what this is. It's a fun thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I allegedly did this in Aruch Shulchan Yomi during the summer, but I don't remember. I guess I didn't do enough chazara. Okay, writing a Sefer Torah, women can do voluntarily. Okay, I've not seen anyone say that they can't. Okay, but so that's why I didn't put asterisks or anything like that.
Is safras? I thought that only men can do like safras.
All I know is I see on Amudim, on the seminary, them writing stuff. So I assume that there's what to rely on. Also, if you expand this mitzvah to say that, like there are other shittas about this mitzvah about, commissioning a Sefer Torah counts, or buying Sfarim counts. That's like the Russia shita, I think.
I think we all rely on that.
Yeah. Okay, because Kohanim is interesting. Yeah.
I don't mind the rush.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that, like, if you saw it not in a reshon, you would think to yourself, does this person like has this person learned through the sugyas? Like, do they know it? Like, it sounds like a made up shita, but it is the rush.
Yeah.
He clearly knows what he's talking about. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, Birkas Kohanim is one where women are involved in the institution, meaning that obviously women Kohanim don't bless people, but neither do men who are Israelites. But we Israelites are the recipient of the Birkas Kohanim, and women can be also. So it's not like they're excluded from the institution. Okay, they're just excluded from, I guess, doing the bracha. Okay, so if a woman wants to be upset about that, then she has the right. Okay, counting the Omer, women can do voluntarily.
Wait, hold on. Women,
Yeah.
for Birkas Kohanim, they can, like, if they want to, they can do it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not aware that they can. I'm assuming not. I've never looked into the Shiloh though. Dwelling in a sukkah for 7 days, obviously women can do voluntarily. taking a lulav on the first of Sukkot, women can do it voluntarily. Hearing shofar from Rosh Hashanah, women can do voluntarily. Okay, puru, right? So rabag, right? Chiyuv is on the man only because halakhically he is the active initiator of the thing of the activity. Women are clearly involved in the institution. Okay, it's just not something that like that they are mechuyev in, because halakhically, the way, again, I don't know, I haven't done this so in depth. The way the Rabag explained that in the Rabag that we did is he seems to hold that women couldn't be chayev in the action because they can't initiate it. The haskala, we put it in terms of the haskala of the action, the providing of the sperm is only by the man. So he seems to hold that that's like tied up with the chiyuv to do it. Okay. Chassan being mesameach his kala, or his his new bride for a year. Women are clearly involved in the institution. In fact, they get the better end of the deal than the man, right? And then all males have to get bris milah. So it's true women don't have a bris milah, but they are involved in the institution and they can do the maaser mitzvah, even though they can't have milah themselves, right? That's first one to do this in the Torah was Tzipporah, right? She did the bris milah of Moshe's son, So the point I wanted to make in my agenda-driven lesson here was that if you said that the chiyuvim for men and women are different, that is true. Okay, but if you felt that women are somehow excluded from what constitutes the core of religious Mitzvos Aseh life, then I don't think that there's a basis for saying that they're excluded from it. There is a difference, and yes, if you are bothered by the fact that women can't bless the nation if they're Kohanim, then guess what? I also want to do Birkas Kohanim, and I'm a ger, so I can't do it. So like it's so you can say that there's a differentiation, but it's not like an exclusion there. So that was my agenda.
Do you feel disenfranchised because you can't do Birkas Kohanim?
Yes, and I want my money back. Yeah, so that is the Rambam there, and let's just make sure I didn't miss anything here. I don't think I did, right? So he said Yishlo Rechush, Matzav Shi'eh, then he listed all the mitzvos. His list is much shorter because he just lists the numbers. And then, oh, by the way, and when he was saying Yuchedes L'Zacharim, I was getting it from the Rambam. Like, that's how, I wasn't like making that judgment on my own. And then I think we read this part. Gam minyan bedam chova lahen vehein habris hamiyuchedes leisha be'achreach zehu ma shereinu l'rashim b'minyan mitzvos aseh. This is what we've seen fit to note on this mitzvos aseh. Yeah, so I felt like this was important to read because the Rambam ended off that way. So I guess general question here: what is the Rambam like getting at here? What's his main point of saying that like there are all these mitzvos that are on the tzibur and like only when you have property and like only if you're a dayan and these are the 60 and like women are. What's his main point? Why does he see fit to like talk about this and to classify? These are, to my knowledge, these are his own classifications. I mean, certain ones are more common than others. Like I think mitzvos that you're chayav in bisman shebeis mikdash kayem. That's like a category people talk about. But you don't hear people talk about mitzvos hechrachios. So I know that's a general question, but like what is he getting at? Can we get like an idea behind like why he's classifying mitzvos this way?
Sorry, how are we defining hechrachios?
That the average man will do them throughout his lifetime without any special times or circumstances or conditions.
Maybe he's trying to like give us a sense of like what the system looks like and like
good
how kind of experientially it like relates to you, I guess.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, anyone want to add to that or develop that? I think I agree with your general direction though.
I'm just going to continue why the Rambam is putting it here.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, he could have also put it like in the before, like in the Hagdama to the Sefer Mitzvos, but he definitely needs to tie it to the Sefer Mitzvos, and maybe he wants to put it afterwards because he's already been through all these mitzvos and can now make reference to them. Whereas if he said it beforehand, he'd have to explain and list all of the particulars. So
It
I
feels
think,
like an
yeah.
answer to me. Like just he could just say the numbers and then say you'll see them when you get to them.
Yeah, well, you know who does that actually? The Sefer Chinuch has a similar. Let me actually see if I could find it here. So Sefer Chinuch has a similar categorization in his Hakdama, and it is very similar to the Rambam's, but not exactly. Give me a second to find it. Sefer HaChinuch. Yeah, I never really scroll past the one that I want. Yeah, here we go. Yesh mitzvos no I'm sharing, right? The Sefer Chinuch? I always forgot what mode I'm in. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yesh mitzvos hanohagos b'zman hazeh v'hem bein kulam gimel me'os v'shishim v'tesha. So there are mitzvos that are nohag b'zman hazeh, and there are 369. So that's obviously including los hazeh. V'yesh me'ilu hanohagos shelo yischayah b'hen adam ki'im b'siba u'pa'amim shelo tavu hasiba lo la'adam b'chol yamav. So there are certain mitzvos that a person is only obligated in due to a certain cause, and sometimes he'll go his whole life without encountering them. And he'll never do it. Like paying a hired worker on time. There are people who will never hire someone, and they'll never do the mitzvah. Some people will never be chayiv in certain lavim because you're only chayiv by your raton. And due to the causes of your actions, and if you refrain from that maaser, it's not a chait. And you're not going to be lacking anything. Like the fact that a moti shemra can't divorce his wife forever. He causes it to himself. To be obligated in this lav. Kihu hoti shemra, because he was the one who slandered his wife. So in other words, you don't have to go out and slander your wife in order to fulfill all the mitzvos. Same thing with not delaying your neder, fulfilling your neder. Who gam kain gorm also, he also caused it. And if you never make a neder, you're never going to have a chait in not doing that mitzvah or not being involved in that los aseh. V'chein kol kiyot b'zeh him being kulam tisha v'tish'im mehen shmona v'shivim maseh v'echad v'esrim los aseh. Okay. Also mitzvot shechayavim behem kol adam Yisrael mibli she'is chadish bosiba ba'olam him being kulam masayim v'shivim v'shivim. So he says that there are 270 that you're going to be chayav in without there being any special circumstances. V'simanam ani yeshna v'libi yeshena. Wait, yeshena. V'libi R. I am asleep, but my mind is awake, and R is 270. Because mitzvahs make you woke. Mehem shmona v'arba'im aseh u'shnayim v'esrim u'masayim lavin. There are 48 asehs u'shnayim v'esrim u'masayim lavin. So this is different than the Rambam's, right? Because the Rambam says there are 60 asehs. Right, so his list is slightly different than the Rambam. V'timsa kol achas b'seder shalah b'socha sefer. Oh, here, this is the amusing point now. Timsa kol achas b'seder shalah. You'll find each one in its parsha because the Sefer Chinuch is organized by parsha. V'chiyuv shel elu lavin lasos eno b'chol eis. The obligation to do these is not at all times. Rak b'zman miduim, only at certain times me'ashana at the year. Min hayom chutz mishisha mitzvos. Hold on. Oh, so this is a separate categorization now. So this the Rambam does not mention. So all of these mitzvahs, though, even the ones that are in the 48, you only do them at specific times of the year or the day, except for 6. Okay, shechiyuvim tamidi. There are 6 mitzvahs which are a constant obligation. Lo yifsach me'al ha'adam afilu rega b'chol yamav. You're obligated in them continually every second of the day. Elohim lahamin b'Hashem. That's mitzvahs anochi. Lahamin shelo lahamin zulaso. That's lo yelecha. Liyachado. Is Yichud Hashem, La'ava oso, Avas Hashem, Lira mimet oso, to fear him, Shlolasur achar machshos halev riyas hayinayim, and to not stray after your thoughts of your heart and the seeing of the eyes. Simanam shesh are miklat tihen alachem. The simon is there are 6 are miklat for you. But this is not what I wanted. I was reading this whole thing, not just to show you that the Sefer Chinuch has his own way of doing it, but in the print Sefer Chinuch, he says, I'm going to make a dot by every mitzvah that is like this. And our editions of the Sefer Chinuch don't have a dot. At least I've never seen one that has a dot. So whoever said, like, why couldn't he just list this when we got to it? You know, that's what the Sefer Chinuch wanted to do. But then apparently, like, people thought that whoever printed this also didn't think that was so important, so they didn't make the dot. Yeah. So going back to the question, and I think Zev's intuition was good, is like, what are the Sefer Chinuch and the Rambam doing? I'm not interested in defining the machlokas. I mean, there is apparently a machlokas here, but like, you know, what are they doing by mapping out the mitzvahs like this? So what I think is, I think we can explain it based on the Ralbag, right? That the Ralbag, of course, the Ralbag, in the Ralbag's Hakdama, he says that the Torah is a regimen, and he said that the regimen doesn't guide you. It's a regimen that brings those who practice it properly to true success, which is Yedias Hashem to the extent that it is possible for man. And he says that the regimen is not all the same. It guides you in three ways: through mitzvos, through midos, and through deos. And within mitzvos, you have mitzvos of action and mitzvos of conviction, mitzvos of asiyah and emunah. And then of those, you have asehs and los asehs. And then the Rambam, you see from here that even within the asehs, there are subtleties in the way it guides you. There are some aspects of the regimen that are part of your daily practice. There are some aspects of the daily regimen that are on the community to foster a certain communal institution or communal like activity, and they're not on the individual. There are other ones that are only come into the picture when you find yourself violating a los aseh. There are other ones that require a person to be involved in a certain like level of socioeconomic wealth, you know, of like land ownership and stuff like that. So it's like each of these categories guide you in a different way, and to a certain extent, that's what the Rambam is reflecting in the division of the Mishnah Torah of like Sefer of Zraim is mitzvahs that perfect you based on agricultural phenomena, and Zmanim perfects you based on the cyclical Moadim, you know, and so it gives you a further subtlety, you know, a more subtle knowledge of how the regimen works to know that it guides you in different ways. And again, this is true of all regimens. Like if you want to be an athlete, so then there are certain moves you have to practice, certain exercises you have to do, certain things you have to avoid doing, certain, you know, endurance thresholds you have to pass. It's not all like a checklist where you just do these actions, you know. And I think I don't know for sure, but like I feel like there are a lot of religions, probably a lot of primitive religions, where their religion is basically, you know, only a handful of like categories, like, you know, like you say these prayers, or like you do these incantations, or you burn this incense. And my guess is if you examine them, you would not find necessarily the same categories as in the Torah. So each regimen, religious or not, is going to have its own modes of achieving its ends. And here the Rambam is like mapping out, you know, what the different modes are behaviorally for the Mitzvos Aseh. That's all I got. Yeah. Okay. You want to do flagged mitzvos now? Okay, so let's go to our personal account in Al Torah and look up which mitzvos we flagged. Okay, so looks like we started with $129, that the Leviim should give maaser to the Kohanim, right? So we wanted to know what that was. It appears, unfortunately, that there is no easy link to the Sefer Chinuch. So the question is, how do we use Al Torah to get to the Sefer Chinuch on this mitzvah from here? What's the easiest route?
Through the pasuk, no?
Yeah, but I don't know if they linked. Okay, yeah, maybe they do. Maybe they, yeah, you're right. So go to the pasuk, then go to Monei HaMitzvos, and then go to Sefer Chinuch. Yeah, good call. Lahavrish Maaser Dagan Lalavim Lalavim Maaser. Okay, so then Sefer HaChinuch. Oh, they have English here. All right, I'm gonna close the English for now. Too much going on. Right. So just to review what we said when we brought this up. So we said we have one step, which is it can't just be that the mitzvah is to get the money to the Kohanim, because then you could just have the Jew give it directly to the Kohen. You wouldn't need to go through the Levi. So it must be there's a perfection in the action itself. So let's just read his intro though. Shnistavim halavim lahafrish maaser min maaser shehem notli Misrael v'shiyitnu osal lekohanim. So that the Leviim should separate maaser from the maaser that the Jews gave them, or that they took from the Jews, and give it to the Kohanim. Shneimar v'el halavim hadav tadaber v'harimosa mimenu trumas Hashem maaser min maaser. Zeu nikra b'chol makom b'gemara trumas maaser. Kinu lashon al derech hakasuv shamar trumas Hashem. So it's using the lashon of the kasuv, the selected portion of Hashem. Uber hakasuv shehu nosin lakohanim. Pasuk says you give it to the kohanim. Kamosha anemar v'nechtam mimenu es trumas. Sorry, unsata mimenu trumas Hashem la'aron hakohen. Hizir kasuv milhav shizeh ma'aser min atov v'hanivchar. They have to give it from the best. Shemar mikol chelbo es mikdasho mimenu. V'onemar al zeh lo sisu alav chet b'harimichem es chelbo mimenu. Yoresh im yotiuhu min hara. Yihye alehem chet. So if you take it from the bad, then you do get a chet. But since that lav is Allah haba michlal aseh, then we don't count it separately. So it is iser deoraisa to give from the inferior portion if you're a Levi, but that's not a separate lav because it's part of the aseh. Okay, misharashe mitzvah. So what's the philosophy of the mitzvah? Hakdama. Ooh, that means he's going to give us a whole hakdama here. In Savik, ki kol shevet halevi hivdil Hashem me'adas Yisrael la'avodaso tamid. Okay, no doubt, as the Rambam would say, it's clear that God separated from the congregation of Israel the entire shevet Levi for his service continually. Amnam b'shevet atzmo nivchar behem echad lios lekulam larosh ulekatzin ulasar. But from that shevet itself, then one was selected to be for all of them a head and a chief and an officer. Hu v'zar la'olam, he and his offspring forever. Hu kodesh mikdash mi shevet b'shevet. Hold on. Was my computer not plugged in? Yeah. Hold on. There we go. All right. Hu kodesh mikdash b'shevet lamod l'sharis pnei Hashem tamid. So they're the ones who were sanctified extra much to be a serving in the presence of Hashem. Shar kol shevet nasan tachtav l'sayeya ba'avoda. All the rest of that shevet was put under him to serve him in avoda. U'kamosh kasav v'yomer Hashem el Aaron ata u'vnecha u'veis avicha tisu es avon hamikdash. As it says, Hashem says, Aaron, you and your children and the house of your father shall bear the avon hamikdash. Klomar, ki kol shevet yikabo shmiras hamikdash. The entire shevet received the task of guarding the mikdash. The ata uvnecha itach, you and your children with you, tisu es avon kuhunaschem. You will bear the avon of your kuna. Klomar ikar ha'avoda, the essence of your avoda. Dahainu hakuna alechem ki, meaning the kahuna is upon you. Uksiv Basra, and it's written afterwards, Gam es achicha mate levi shevet avicha hakarov itcha v'yilavo alecha v'yishar sucha. So too it says, also you, your brother, the shevet, the tribe of Levi, shevet avicha, the tribe of your father, hakarov itcha, who's close to you, v'yilavucha alecha v'yishar sucha. They will accompany you and they will serve you. Klomar she'ata ha'ikar, you are the main thing, v'lo him, and not them. V'chein kasu b'makom acher, same thing, another proof. Nasata es halavim la'aron u'levanav nesunim hema. Okay, you are given, the Levim are given to Aaron and his children to be for him. Valkain bios hakohanim ikar habayis ba'avodas elokenu, and since the kohanim are the ikar of the avodah of the bayis of the base elokenu, zachu be'esrim va'arba matnos nasun lahem. They get the 24 gifts that are given to them. Mefarshas b'kasher that are spelled out in the psukim. Like the Chachamim spelled out. Eser b'mikdash v'arba b'Yushalayim v'arba v'eser b'Gvulim. Okay. Ushara shivto shu nivchar amo l'sayeya al yado zahu gamkein lichayos b'tuva liyagia. So what does the rest of the shevet get? They get to assist them, and they merit to live in a state of goodness without toil. Im maaser haperos shenotli mikol Yisrael, with the maaser of the fruit that is given, that is taken from Israel. U'leman yedu v'yisbonenu ki kol chalkam b'tuva v'chelik achihem hi sibas havodash l'shem, in order so that they know and understand that all of their lot of goodness and the chelik that they have among their portions is the cause of, V'chelik achihem he sibas havoda l'shem is, I think, for the cause of the avodas Hashem. So then they have to give a tenth of everything that they have to the real Misharsim, the great Misharsim, the Kohanim. They have to also take it to heart that there are those who are higher than they are, and higher among all of them, above all of them. That's a reference to Koheles, even though he doesn't quote it. Hu shomer hakol yisale. That he guards, he watches over everyone. You know the pasuk I'm talking about? Shomer Ugavohim Alehem. I don't know if he's referencing this just poetically or because he holds that there's an idea in common. It's funny, it's in terms of mishpat. Im oshek rash v'gezel mishpat v'tzedek tira babadina. If you see extortion of the poor or robbery in a matter of justice and righteousness in the land, al tisma al chavitz. Do not be astounded about desire. Very correctly, ki gavoha me al gavoha shomer, because there is a higher one above. Ki gavoha me al gavoha shomer. There's a shomer who's higher above that. Who gavohim aleim, and there's one who's higher than that, and that's talking about God. I don't know if he's linking this to the Levim for a Kohelesi reason or not. Ugavoha ya me al lukulam. Who shomer ha'akol yisala. That's the one who he's the one who guards everyone. He exalted. Gam ki yesh b'zeh zechus v'kavod uma ala Levim. Also, there is a merit and an honor and a stature for the Levim. Levilti yigra shemam mi mitzvos maaser v'chelkam b'tevuos, so as to not diminish from their name or their reputation in the mitzvah of maaser in their portion of tevuos. Al yomru b'nehem livnehem, and their children shouldn't say to their children, zechisem b'tevua, you've merited in the produce, v'anachnu b'mitzvah, but we in the mitzvah. V'achshav yiheh hama'aneh yesh Torah v'yesh kemach. Well, I didn't get that last part. Let me just read it in English for the last, for the sake of time here. He says, and in this way, okay, with this also is merit, honor, prestige for the Levites, without removing their names from the commandment of the tithe in their portion of the produce. And the sons of the Israelites will not be able to say to the sons of the Levites, you merited the grain and we the commandment. And now the response will be there's Torah and there's flour. So I don't know what he means by that, but it sounds like he's saying that that if they didn't have this, then they wouldn't be part of whatever zechus there is in giving maaser to the Kohanim. Whoops, I closed it. And so it's including them in that zechus. So what is he saying? That was a lot. So what did you get from that? Why do they have to give maaser to the Kohanim?
They're recognizing that they're subordinate to the Kohanim.
Yeah, sounds like it is to prevent them from losing track of what their actual role is, and making reinforcing the hierarchy of Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. You know, and so what better way to do that than to make them give their portion to the Kohanim? Now, what's interesting is if we checked out what's the reason for maaser in general, would we find that he says a similar thing for the Yisraelim? Or would he explain that purely in terms of like, honoring the Kohanim and giving gifts to Mikdash? In other words, when we give our tithes to the Kohanim, is that also reinforcing our hierarchy, or is it something that's unique to the Levim, reinforcing their hierarchy? You know, like all the stuff he said before about how like Shevet Levi is singled out and is special. Is it that we have to prevent them from, I don't know, say someone named Korach starting a rebellion and wanting to be a full Kohen? Like, is there a unique like thing among the Levim that they need an extra safeguard to realize that the Kohanim are above them, or is it just is it the same as a Yisrael and just one level up? I'm not saying we can answer that based on this, but that would be a question. And then secondly, it sounds like whatever the mitzvah is of maaser and whatever the reason for that is, then we don't want to exclude them from that. I don't know why he quoted the in kamach ein Torah thing or yesh kamach yesh Torah. You merited the grain, we have the commandment. I mean, it's not, maybe he just means the inequality of it, meaning that Yisrael, the Yisraelim might brag to the Levim, we got to do this mitzvah and we have this chus of like supporting the Kohanim, and we don't want to take that away from the Levim.
It's kind of weird to me because it's not like I don't think we do this by like every mitzvah, you know.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
we don't say Yisraelim can bless the Kohanim because they
Right.
feel, you know.
Right. So this is where the Rambam's reminder comes into play, though, as you said in the Hagdama, that you shouldn't look for the same type of precision or necessity in the explanations of the Tamam mitzvos as you do in halacha or in science. That we're not trying to find here, like, in other words, it's not necessarily a valid question. I'm not saying it's invalid, but it's not necessarily a valid question of like, well, based on that reasoning, then why don't we do this? Or why don't we structure this mitzvah that way? We're looking at the mitzvahs and just trying to find, trying to infer what benefit could we get from this? You know, what benefit, what, you know, mida or dea or like justice in society do we get from this?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess the plan, I don't want to start a new mitzvah right now because we only have a few more minutes. I guess the plan will be to do the Mitzvos Aseh, all of them next week. No, I don't know if we're going to do all of them, but we'll definitely start. So I'm going to